Part 34. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 331. Will it be a scam? When this question was asked, a group of mages in Black Crow Swamp became chaotic with a bang. Who wouldn't? It's the easiest way to cheat. I have 10 basic versions here. There are men, women, old, and young. You can choose your height, weight, hair color, and eye color. Roll. Necromancers generally have a little more difficulty than others in finding a mate. Over time, for the sake of pleasing the eyes, some people started to focus on undead creatures for daily use. It's okay for people like Lin N who have been wandering outside for a long time and are still in the stage of improving their combat effectiveness. As long as they have their own mage tower and stabilized necromancers, who doesn't have a few treasures? Some people take the path of flesh and blood shaping, and the zombies they create are lifelike and feel like living people, except that they have their own body temperature. Some people take the path of illusion, giving the skeleton an illusion, which saves the time of daily cleaning and maintenance, and can be replaced at any time when it gets tired. Some people have found another way to put illusions on zombies, so that they feel and look exactly the same without changing clothes and makeup. And the necromancer profession is very powerful in combat. If they don't agree with each other, they will drag back some high-quality human, or maybe non-human, corpses. There is always no shortage of templates and such. 1/3 of the paid version of the tower spirits provided by the School of Change have their appearance provided by the School of Necromancy. The topic quickly strayed to showing off one's own zombies and skeletons, figures, battle figures, and attacking the other party's belongings. A group of dead house mages discussed this with great gusto, foaming at the mouth, and more than half an hour passed in an instant. The host of the meeting coughed several times and tried to bring the topic back on track, but was ignored by everyone intentionally or unintentionally. Gretel was unaware of the discussion in Black Crow Marsh. If he could hear it, he would rush to place the order. First come the dozens of skeletons who help sweep the floor, carry stretchers, and deliver things. They want the appearance of a nurse. I'll pay the bill with penicillin. It's so pitiful that his hospital has been short of nurses for how long? All along, doctors have been used as nurses, and mage apprentices have been used as nurses. He has been reduced to the point where he works as a nurse for his equipment. Hey, just talking about it brings tears to his eyes. But he now has no time to sit in on the discussion or place an order. Greet cheered up and plunged into work in the hospital. View patients, study clinical data, perform surgeries. Perform surgeries, study clinical data, see patients. Infinite loop. In particular, this is the first large-scale clinical application of penicillin since its emergence in the world. The relevant curative effects, adverse reactions, etc. should be collected as much as possible. Sigh, there are too few people and too many things to do. The reliability of these data really makes people have a headache. Greet lamented. The large-scale use of penicillin and the like so quickly was beyond his plan. According to his original arrangement, after the penicillin was produced and the animal experiments were completed, he should go to places like docks or military camps to find suitable patients and conduct clinical experiments in small batches. It would be best to use a military camp, where everyone is enclosed, making it easier to follow up later. But an outbreak of intestinal anthrax caused him to change his plans temporarily. Use it on a large scale, use it in large quantities, and change the medication methods in medical books. Greet had no idea at all, so he could only pay attention to the feedback data after the operation, and use every opportunity to see the patients. As well as, be careful, don't let the patient bite the thermometer into pieces. There is mercury in it, mercury. If you are poisoned, you will die. Gretel prayed to God in his heart, hoping that penicillin would be effective, drug resistance would not develop, patients would not suffer from any problems, and this epidemic would be over soon. but it was clear that no god, including the god of nature, could bless this false believer. Not only did it not bless him, it also caused him trouble. It has been confirmed that the water supply systems of these 12 buildings, starting from the entire water source, are contaminated by plague seeds during the interval of the operation. Johnny Collin, the head of the emergency management department, found Greet with a solemn look on his face. The question now is, how should it be disinfected? Should all water pipes be dismantled? Do all clothes and utensils that have been in contact with patients inside the building need to be burned? How should the water sources be disposed of? Is it enough to flush them with large amounts of disinfectant water? Gretel showed a toothache expression. Anthrax is the most troublesome thing to disinfect. It's not like cholera bacilli. You just throw bleach into the water. Anthrax spores are extremely tenacious and cannot be killed by ordinary high temperatures. They can survive for decades. I can only make suggestions from the perspective of a healer. This plague is very troublesome, and it is best to eliminate it completely. Greet rubbed his brows in confusion. The safest way is to dismantle all the water pipelines and throw them into a furnace to be burned into copper water or any water. The patient's body, as well as all the clothing and items that came into contact with it, must be incinerated at high temperature. Burning hands are not suitable, but dragon-breathed hands are not suitable. The incinerator must be sealed to prevent pathogenic bacteria from floating everywhere. Even if it is the soil of the water source, it is best to burn it all with the hand of dragon breath. The more Johnny Collin listened, the more headache he got. After hearing the end, I couldn't help but complain. According to what you said, wouldn't those 12 buildings be the cleanest ones to burn? Anyway, the neighborhood has been sealed off. Please invite a great magician to come over and cast a forbidden spell to completely kill them. But where are people going to live? At home? Don't want all the things. It is indeed safest to burn it with high temperature flames, but Greet also had a headache. A broken family is worth $1,000. He himself had been poor before and knew the weight of the sentence. Repurchasing the furniture, clothes, utensils, and all kinds of odds and ends will put a huge financial pressure on a family. Not to mention, how many people have become unemployed due to this illness. Headache, who planted this plague seed? If only he could be responsible for compensation. Gretel muttered quietly. Johnny Collin was silent for a moment, and could only find comfort in these words. The great magicians are leading people to investigate. If the mastermind is caught, he will definitely have to pay for the losses to the patient's family. The problem is, the magician who does this kind of thing, I hope he is richer. Based on his experience in handling cases, generally speaking, people who have no permanent assets are more likely to take risks. Greet and the others pinned their hopes on compensation for the murderer. However, the actions of Archmage Edgar, who was on the front line of pursuing the murderer, did not go so smoothly. This curse method is not like ours. We study plague in the laboratory. Our team. We are in the Mage Tower every day, no one runs around. I was not happy yesterday, so I went to eat the soy sauce bone. It was very refreshing when I ate it. After eating it, I felt feverish for some reason. I was so hot that I couldn't sleep well all night. Even more unhappy. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 332. Archmage Edgar's investigation is not going well. He is a high-level mage and not a textbook on necromancy. He is not familiar enough with the various branches of plague magic and the subtle differences in the spellcasting methods of different magicians to see it at a glance. For a whole day, Archmage Edgar took the flesh and blood remains extracted from the scene and searched all the high-level plague mages he knew, but no one claimed them. Even no one gave him directions as to which one this mana fluctuation looked like to me. Archmage Edgar ran up and down for a whole day without success, so he had to come back to resurrect his life. The person who assigned him the task was the rotating committee member of the necromancy school in the review committee. After listening to Archmage Edgar complaining and requesting the review committee to authorize the investigation of the foreign mage tower, he twitched the corner of his mouth in a sinister manner and sighed. Outside. How far away? 100 kilometers? 200 kilometers? How many mage towers of the necromancy school are there within this range? How much time do you want to spend investigating, and how do you want to investigate? Should you ask them one by one? Or search past this? Archmage Edgar didn't know how to answer for a moment. His strengths lie in research and teaching, so when the Parliament held an elite class before, he was recruited to give lectures. But investigations, detective work, etc., are really not his specialty. In the past, when he encountered investigation needs during adventures, he would rely on his teammates, asking about the undead, or crushing them with violence. At this moment, he was conducting an investigation in the city of Nevis, but it couldn't have much impact. He had exhausted all his tracking magic and couldn't find anyone, so he was a bit blind. Forget it, the emergency management department is also investigating this matter. You go over and help them calm down the situation. If there is some information, it should be suppressed by the way. Archmage Edgar was eager for this and went straight to the emergency management department. In the past 2 days, the emergency management department has also been turned upside down by the epidemic. It has to seal off the epidemic area, transport patients, arrest people all over the city, and take care of the food, drink, and diarrhea of the entire hospital. By the way, the last task, they decisively kicked him to the city hall. Even so, the entire emergency management department was busy. The most hateful thing is that after a hard day's work, you still have to use disinfectant to wash people, horses, and cars, without missing a single drop. The entire emergency management department was filled with complaints. After receiving the news from the review meeting and confirming that the epidemic had human factors, I became even more jealous of the murderer. As soon as department head Johnny Collin received the authorization, he immediately handed over hospital affairs to his subordinates and devoted himself to hunting down the murderer. The job of the emergency management department is to maintain order in the city and manage some unruly magicians. Johnny Collin was experienced in investigating crimes and chasing down murderers, and he already had a preliminary plan after hearing what the Archmage said. While he arranged for his subordinates to collect information, he and Archmage Edgar personally found the water supply company and the owner of the 12 buildings, Viscount Calendar. Viscount Calendar met them while holding back his anger. After serving tea according to aristocratic etiquette, he immediately started to get angry. Minister Collin, in the past few years since you took office, my Calendar family has not offended you, right? Why do you have to punish me like this? Take the sick people for treatment, forget it, why bother to seal off the entire neighborhood? What if the news spreads and others think there is a ghost in the house, can I still rent this house? Lord Viscount, I am afraid that these 12 buildings of yours cannot be rented out for the time being. Johnny Collin picked up the teacup calmly. The level of tea in the cup is stable and stable. After identification, the water supply in your 12 buildings has been completely contaminated by plague seeds, and the residents inside may be infected at any time. We do not recommend that the houses continue to operate before the water sources, water supply pipelines, and the entire building are thoroughly cleaned. Rent. You. Viscount Calendar wanted to say, you're talking nonsense. However, Johnny Collin, who was opposite him, was the powerful minister of the Ministry of Emergency Management and held the most important conventional force in the Parliament. Edgar next to him was even more so. High-level mage. When he finished speaking, he could only turn around. If you say this, you must have evidence. The contamination of water pipes and water sources has been confirmed by the review committee. Collin's attitude was calm. Of course, as a noble, you have the right to request verification again. The verification personnel can be arranged by us, or you can invite a familiar magician to participate in the supervision. His tone was so calm and confident that Viscount Calendar did not dare to make trouble. He thought for a while and asked, "How deep does it need to be cleaned?" Two options. Colin was confident. 1. You can find the Spring Water Temple, or any mage tower on your own, and use magic or divine magic to kill the plague seeds. Afterwards, as long as it passes our acceptance, the water supply can be restored. Viscount Calendar gasped. To find a temple or a mage tower, to put it simply, clean everything from the water source to the building. How many spells would it take? Money, that's all money. What about the other plan? Minister Colin explained Gretel's plan in detail. Viscount Calendar changed his expression halfway through hearing this. He endured the whole thing and slammed the table with all his strength. You might as well let me demolish the building. In fact, it is indeed more efficient to demolish buildings. Minister Colin complained silently. He didn't refute, just stared at Viscount Calendar motionlessly with his sharp black eyes. The Viscount felt a little weak when he saw him. Thinking about his losses, he could only continue to argue. How much does it cost to build 12 buildings, all the pipelines, and water sources? Can the Parliament not come up with this money? Of course not. Then I deserve my own misfortune. Viscount Calendar became angry again. Before he could hit the table again, a rare smile appeared on Minister Colin's face. Of course not. According to our preliminary investigation, your water supply company was contaminated because someone cursed the animals near the water source. Archmage Edgar had been sitting silently next to him, and now he said coldly, "Your Majesty the Viscount, don't you want to know who did such a despicable thing and then get back the losses from him? How do I catch him? The Parliament has dedicated people to do this." Minister Colin smiled. "But I need your cooperation. Your Excellency, Viscount, have you taken anyone to the water source or the mountains and forests near the water source in the past 2 weeks? If not, can we ask the guards who guard the water source? Have you seen anyone suspicious? But, the family has a villa there. In the past 2 weeks, we held 2 banquets there, and many people went hunting in the woods. That would be even more dangerous." Archmage Edgar sighed. "You may not know that if people eat cursed animals, they will be like those patients in the hospital, maybe worse. The person who cursed doesn't care about your life, so why should you care about him?" The furious Viscount Calendar volunteered the list of visitors. Not only that, he also asked the housekeeper to take the personnel of the Emergency Management Department to go to each visiting noble house to inquire one by one. Of course, the guards guarding the water source did not miss anything. At the same time, the subordinates sent by Minister Colin also obtained another list from the guard office of the city's public water source. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews. Asking for various. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 333. With the 2 lists in hand, carefully comparing them one by one is a big project. Minister Colin was so busy that he didn't even drink coffee. He had a piece of parchment in one hand and his eyes were almost cross-eyed. This one has only been there once, this one too, this one has never been to a public water source, this one has not been either. The number of nobles attending banquets and hunting trips was small, so it was easier to check. But Minister Colin thought on his toes and didn't think that the cursed necromancer would use his true identity to sneak into the team. Most likely they are still pretending to be servants or guards, or simply sneaking in without being seen. Regarding the latter possibility, He had already asked the staff guarding the sand table if anything unusual had happened in the past few days. Archmage Edgar also watched with him. Even if he had never seen the necromancer in Nevis, he had probably heard of his name. At this moment, the two of them were flipping through page after page, and Archmage Edgar suddenly said, "Hey! What is this family doing here?" "Which one?" Johnny Collin immediately looked over. Archmage Edgar pointed to a line of names. "Baroness Hoffman? Do you still have time to attend the banquet? Their eldest son just died." Perhaps the relationship between the Baroness and her son is not good, Minister Collins speculated. "Why do you care about this in particular?" "Their family has a grudge against Little Greed. In order to prevent the Baron's family from retaliating, Lin En reported the enmity to the teacher as soon as they came back from the banquet." After listening to Archmage Edgar's narration, Minister Collin burst into flames. "It's indeed suspicious. This clue needs to be investigated closely." The results of the survey were less optimistic. The eldest son of the Baron, the Knight Hoffman, died recently, and the second son, who had been sick for many years and had no sense of presence, had to be hurriedly pushed to the stage. In order to make him known to the aristocratic circle, starting from the funeral of Knight Hoffman, the Baron and the Baroness took their second son and his wife to be active in the surrounding social circles. The banquet at Viscount Cotteron's house was just a stop in their social activities, and there was nothing unusual about it. According to the memories of the housekeeper and waiter of the Viscount's family, when the Baroness came to the banquet, there were no strange people in the party. "It's really not them," Archmage Edgar put down the report in a daze. Minister Collin frowned and shook his head. "No, let's check again. I have a hunch that there is something wrong with their family." He dove into the pile of information. Personnel list, movement track, past information, family relationships. After checking, he suddenly slapped the table. "Yes. The Baroness has a sister who is a magician. The Magician Management Department next to the Emergency Management Department stores the family information of each magician, mainly to facilitate the handling of inheritances. When Master Slyman applied for the Mage Badge, he happened to register the Baroness as the heir. The way magicians investigate cases is that as long as they have clues, they don't care whether the method is legal or not. In other words, they have no concept of legitimate means." Archmage Edgar checked the inheritance of Master Slyman from the database of Black Crow Swamp, and took her mentor with him. In order to prevent Master Slyman from escaping or refusing to tell the truth, a 9th-level mage was specially invited from the Prophecy Department. Minister Collin brought a 7th-level magic control mage from the Emergency Management Department to join the team, and headed straight for Master Slyman's mage tower in the mountains. At the entrance of the mage tower, several apprentices were trembling with fear in the face of this powerful lineup falling from the sky. "My mentor went out a few days ago, saying he was looking for a rare herb, but he hasn't come back yet. Are you absconding out of fear of crime? Chase him." Archmage Edgar sneered. They entered the mage tower and searched it, confirming that Slyman was indeed not in the tower and had left half a month ago, so they turned around and left. The oldest apprentice in the tower watched them leave, quickly returned to the top of the tower, and released a huge crow. Half an hour later, the crow fell into the hands of Johnny Collin. The experienced magician held the message bird and looked at it for a moment. He did not untie the message bucket on the crow's feet and only made a few gestures. For a moment, a deep black appeared on the outside of the message barrel. "There is a specific message to send," Johnny Collin sneered. He turned around and handed the crow to his subordinate, pointing into the distance. "Deploy a team of people to follow secretly to see who this message is conveyed to, and where the person who receives the message is going." The group of people divided into two groups. Johnny Collin led two teams of emergency management operators to follow the crow's whereabouts, and soon arrived at the Baron. They put on makeup, dispersed, and lurked patiently for 2 or 3 days before intercepting the hurried Baroness Hoffmann on a passenger ship that had set sail. On the other side, everyone was tracking all the way under the guidance of the prophecy mage. With magic guiding the way and arcane eyes everywhere, they also successfully intercepted Master Slimon. This magician was actually lurking near the mage tower. When he saw a large group of people coming to the mage tower for questioning, he quietly passed by them. If the emergency management department acted slowly, the ship destined for the New World would have already set sail. This back and forth made the great magicians sweat all over their bodies. On the 10th day after the outbreak, a magic wall was raised in the prison of the Ministry of Emergency Management. On both sides of the wall, 2 groups of people began to interrogate. Master Slimon, the Emergency Management Department has judged that you are suspected of poisoning in the recent plague incident. We are here to ask you some questions under the order of the review committee. You can refuse to answer, but in that case, we have the right to use enchantment and control magic to conduct forced interrogation. You can also lie, but please note that every answer you give will be judged by the prophecy magician to be true or false. If it is judged to be a lie, your guilt will be increased in the subsequent trial. Of course, you can also commit suicide, but as a necromancer, after committing suicide, your soul will be captured and you will continue to be interrogated. I guess you should know. Now, please answer the first question. Have you left Mage Tower and been around Nevis in the past 2 weeks? Magician Slimon clasped his hands together and trembled slightly. On the other side of the magic wall, 2 magicians with noble backgrounds asked the Baroness seriously. Magic Slimon has confessed. She said that it was at your instruction that she cursed and poisoned people with the intention of harming the citizens of Nevis. Baroness, do you admit your sister's accusations? Why did you instruct her to do this? I didn't. It has nothing to do with me. She and I haven't seen each other for more than 10 years, the Baroness screamed. I demand treatment worthy of my status. You have no right to lock me up and interrogate me just because of her accusations. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 334. I plead guilty. I have twice placed curses on animals near water sources, intending to pollute the water sources and cause plague. It's my own idea and has nothing to do with anyone else. I have just started to get some ideas on my project, but the school suddenly ordered that no unauthorized research on plague be allowed. With my mage level and savings, even if I can apply for a laboratory, it will take at least 2 or 3 years. Years of hard work are suddenly wiped out. Cut off, I was resentful and sought revenge. Slimon sat alone across from several high-level mages, speaking every word with a calm voice. Opposite her, the magician from the prophecy department held a quill in his hand and kept sketching on the paper, and then pushed it over to show his colleagues. Archmage Edgar frowned slightly. Slimon took all the blame at once, and it was certainly impossible to get her sister off the hook. There was nothing to hide under the magic. However, there is a big difference between having her confession and not having her confession. At the very least, without using magic to induce confessions or even forcibly retrieving memories, it would be more difficult to refute the confessions obtained when brought to the Council of Nobles to accuse Baron Hoffmann. Are you sure it was your idea, Master Slimon? Archmage Edgar asked coldly. That's not what your sister, Baroness Hoffmann, said. You are thinking too much, Your Majesty. The Archmage's smile appeared on Master Slimon's pale and ugly face, and the smile was actually a little peaceful. Being caught by you is because my skills are inferior to others and I deserve the punishment. However, my sister will never say that this matter has anything to do with her. Really? Do you want to listen to your sister? Archmage Edgar got up and went out. The magician from the control department immediately followed them out, and the high-level mage from the prophecy department looked around, then got up and followed them. In the room, Only the direct mentor of magician Slimane was left staring at her blankly, and for a while he sighed, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. Archmage Edgar walked quickly to the next door. He did not go in, but opened an inconspicuous small window and listened quietly to the conversation inside. As he listened, his face darkened and his palms clenched quietly. In the room, Johnny Collins' cold voice sounded. "You will get what you deserve, ma'am." There was a trace of disgust in his eyes. He had already heard Archmage Edgar tell her the reason for the Baroness' revenge. The reason was quite absurd. The Baron's eldest son was forcibly pursuing the girl, and the little magician stood up for the girl. Later, things got louder and louder, with neither party trying to stop it, and finally it got out of hand. It is not incomprehensible for a mother to seek revenge for her son. The problem is, no matter how much you take revenge, don't use the poor as victims. He nodded to his side. On the left, the noble magician in charge of the interrogation turned over a page of information and sneered. "We haven't seen each other for more than 10 years. Madam, your personal maid, your coachman, and Master Slimane's apprentice have all confessed that you visited her master's tower this month and also took her to the Baron. Let's meet. If you want more evidence, maybe we can ask your husband." "No," the Baroness shouted reflexively. The noble magician raised his eyebrows and said, "Then madam, please answer first why you lied just now." The Baroness was temporarily speechless. She immediately turned her head bitterly. "Yes, I just don't want to tell the truth, I just don't want people to know that I'm dealing with her, so what?" "Why don't you want others to know?" the female noble magician on the right side of Minister Colin asked softly. "Don't you like her? Or, your husband likes her too much?" She conveniently placed a charming human, and the mana fluctuations were extremely slight, which could only make the opponent relax their vigilance. The magician on the left glanced at his colleague, turned his head silently, and pretended not to see him. The Baroness sneered. "Why should I like her? She is ugly and can't speak. She has been pitiful since she was a child. She only knows how to call her sister by pulling on my skirt. If she didn't have some magic, who would pay attention to her? What about this curse incident? Does it have nothing to do with you? We all know that Master Slimane has been reclusive all year round. In the past year, she has only left the Mage Tower twice. If it weren't for you, why would she suddenly run away 200 miles away? How about poisoning the water source of Neva City? How do I know? She is a necromancer, a necromancer. A necromancer can cast plague, is it strange? Why do you come to ask me? Then why did she come to Nevis? Who traveled thousands of miles to send her here? Who told her the locations of the 2 water sources? And who provided convenience for her to attend the banquet?" Minister Collins' tone became increasingly harsh. The Baroness sneered. "Then you go ask her. It has nothing to do with me. By the way, you'd better send me back quickly. Illegally detaining a noble is a violation of the agreement between the Magic Council and the nobles. Since you have a clear conscience, why did you take a boat to escape? The destination of the boat you took was the Carolingian kingdom, on the other side of the sea. Can't I go visit my aunt? Which law in the kingdom prohibits nobles from visiting relatives?" Archmage Edgar retreated quietly. He returned to the original place, took out a piece of magic crystal, and put it on the table. "This is your sister's confession. Master Slimane, are you sure you don't need to listen to it again and think about your statement again?" Slimane stared blankly at the small piece of magic crystal. She wanted to reach out her hand several times, but raised her fingers and immediately retracted them. Her expression changed, half with desire, half with fear. After a long time, she let out a long sigh. "No need. Your Majesty the Archmage, no matter what my sister says, my confession will not change." Obstinate. Archmage Edgar's face darkened, and he stretched out his hand to press the magic crystal to activate the spell. He stretched out his hand halfway, but the prophecy magician who went out together took the lead and reached out to hold it down. The middle-aged female magician turned to look at Edgar and then at Master Slyman. Although she said nothing, her eyes were full of pity. Don't let her listen. Don't let her be severely cut in the heart by the most important person close to her. Let's find another way, isn't it, to find out the truth? There are many ways in the prophecy system, don't hurt her anymore. Archmage Edgar stared at her, with anger silently burning in his eyes under his thick eyebrows. You pity her, who pity the victims? Those who were sitting at home, working hard and living their lives, got seriously ill for no reason, lost their husbands, wives, parents, children, and even their own lives for no reason. There are also little Gretel who is so busy that he feels like vomiting, the apprentices who are treating patients despite the risk of infection, the emergency management department action team and the city patrol team running around. He grabbed the magic crystal, threw it into Master Slyman's arms, and walked out of the interrogation room quickly. After standing outside for a while, I met Johnny Collin, who also quit. The two people reviewed the confessions they had obtained, and Archmage Edgar said sadly, "This won't work, this little confession cannot be used as irrefutable proof, and we can't kill the Baroness." "Is our goal to kill her?" Minister Collin asked softly. Archmage Edgar was stunned for a moment and shook his head slightly. "It doesn't matter whether a Baroness lives or dies. The important thing is, firstly, the Magic Council cannot bear all the responsibility for this plague, and the reputation of Black Crow Swamp must also be protected. Secondly, someone must compensate for the losses caused by this plague." Minister Johnny Collin lifted his chin. His eyes were bright and he smiled confidently. "Give me some time and ask the review committee for instructions. I estimate, this matter can develop in the direction we expect." 5 days later, a magic carriage from the Magic Council carried Baron Hopman and quietly drove into the city of Nevis. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of my pothos, the hydroponic pothos I bought when I started writing, except for the ones that were planted in soil pots in time, only the last one is still alive. The mortality rate is like my loss rate. My jade dew continues to deflate. Today I was lamenting about my difficulty in writing. When someone asked me if I wanted to be a eunuch, I said, "No way, my green plants are still alive, and I don't know how to be a eunuch." It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 335. The carriage carrying Baron Hopman took a long detour and passed by the southeast corner of the city. Baron Hopman kept a gloomy face and looked out the window without saying a word. It wasn't until the carriage rounded the foot of a mountain that he was suddenly blocked by traffic ahead and couldn't move. He then raised his gaze and glanced to the right from the window. "What's going on? Why is it blocked like this?" "Ah, this is the new infectious disease hospital," the magician who was ordered to invite him answered without even looking. While answering, he pointed to the temple emblems on the carriages outside the left window. "With the traffic jam like this, I'm afraid the priests who came to the hospital to help with treatment have finished their work and are preparing to return." Baron Hopman looked in the direction he pointed, his eyelids twitching rapidly. The magician seemed to have disappeared and continued. "All the victims of this plague are being treated inside. So far, 1,352 people have been hospitalized and died. When I set out, they said it was 79 people. Now, it should be more." The Baron was silent. More than 1,000 patients, 79 lives. If it were in his territory, it would not be impossible to die, but it would just be a bit painful. However, the place where the accident happened was the city of Nevis, and the people who died were all free people, which is another story. Every free citizen is the property of the city ruler. "Damn old woman, you can cause trouble for me." the Baron said bitterly in his heart. The carriage waited for a while, passed the oncoming carriage and horses, and continued to move forward. Turning around the foot of another hill, leaving the building of the infectious diseases hospital far behind, the magician suddenly leaned to the right and looked past the Baron to look out the window on the right. Ah, this is the new mage tower. He couldn't help but admire. I am only a third-level mage, but I can have a high-level mage tower. I am so envious. I can have my own tower anytime. An ordinary one, that's fine too. Only level 3? Baron Hopman's heart skipped a beat. He tried to be as relaxed as possible and asked in a pretend chat. Oh? Which mage is so powerful? The biological son of the legendary mage. If that's the case, I'd give up, the companion lamented. But that's not the case. He just relies on his own ability. Not long after arriving in Neva City, he has already published several magic and arcane articles. He was also the first to identify this plague and presided over the treatment. Oh, by the way, his name is Gretel Nordmark, have you heard of it? Baron Hopman secretly grinned at his teeth, turned his head away, and refused to speak again. The two of them were silent all the way, got off the carriage in front of the White Tower, and walked into the emergency management department. Johnny Collin personally received the Baron. After the courtesy greetings, he placed a large stack of confessions and 2 magic crystals in front of the Baron. What does this mean? Baron Hopman turned over the confessions of the servants one after another. While reading, he listened to the confessions of his wife and sister-in-law, and finally sneered. What does a necromancer spreading plague have to do with my wife? When can the words of a few servants be used to testify against a noble? The servant's confession is indeed less effective. Johnny Collin looked at him calmly. However, the servant's testimony, Master Slyman's confession, and the previous actions of the madam are enough to cause the Department of Emergency Management to have reasonable doubts. In view of the serious nature of the plague incident, we are considering applying to the review committee and using magical means to find the truth. Baron Hopman's eyes flashed. After decades of marriage, he knows better than anyone what kind of temper his wife is. Looking for her sister to cast the plague in revenge is really something she can do. In the past few decades, when husband and wife quarreled, she threatened more than once to let my sister come over and curse you to death. And the truth, as long as it is there, cannot be hidden under magic. I don't agree, he replied coldly. We are nobles. There is no reason to use magic on my wife just because of the testimony of a few servants. Are you sure you disagree? Sure. Okay, please sign here. Johnny Collin touched the pile of documents on the right and pushed over a form, along with a quill dipped in ink. The movements were familiar, as if he had been prepared for a long time. Since you insist on not allowing it, we will hold a hearing at the City Hall to apply for a compulsory license for magical interrogation. Baron Hopman's hand froze in the air. Once the hearing is held, regardless of whether it is possible to pass, what his wife did will spread throughout the aristocratic circle on the spot. Those nobles don't care what the truth is. They can convict their family in their hearts on the spot. Would the judges agree? He quickly turned his thoughts and looked for a counter-argument angle that was favorable to him. If a hearing is held and the truth of the matter is made public, the reputation of the Parliament will also be damaged. Neither the review committee nor the Black Crow Swamp will be willing to let the public know that it was a necromancer who poisoned it, right? That's not the case, Johnny Collin replied confidently. The reputation of the Parliament comes from fair trials and from bringing criminals to justice in a timely manner. By the way, Master Slyman's punishment has been determined, death penalty. The Baron breathed rapidly. If Parliament doesn't care about publicity, he has nothing to blackmail. Wait. You can't apply, his voice suddenly rose. No noble would agree to use magic to interrogate a baroness for such a trivial matter. Oh, that's not necessarily the case, Johnny Collin shrugged. For example, Viscount Cotteron, the epidemic broke out in the building he rented. He suffered great losses and was very angry. If he knew that the plague might be man-made, he would definitely try his best to get the application approved. Baron Hauptmann's breath hitched. The Cardron family took root in the city of Nevis before the Magic Council was established. The trees here are big and the roots are deep, but their family's territory is 200 miles away. No matter how hard you fight for power or connections, you can't win. Wait, loss. What does the Department of Emergency Management really want? Take it over quietly, rather than holding a public hearing. What are their demands? A bright light flashed quickly in his mind. The next moment, His Excellency the Baron's voice quietly lowered. Is there any other solution to this matter? He said quickly and softly. After all, if the commotion has alarmed the jury and the entire city, both of us will lose. Minister Colin chuckled to himself. He relaxed his fingers on the form, leaned back, and softened his attitude. How would you like to resolve this? That night, the Magic Council's carriage carried the Baron and his wife and drove them back to their territory at high speed. 3 days later, the Baroness died of illness in the territorial castle. According to her last wish, the Baron donated the knighthood that was her dowry to the Magic Council and put it into city charity. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Yesterday, I hugged Lily's big thighs and received a chapter recommendation. I added 300 favorites in one go, and my subscriptions skyrocketed. I'm so happy. The mythical version of the Three Kingdoms is a good book. Thanks to @ for the 1,500 starting coins. Thanks to @Lenjuta for the 100 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 336. Before leaving, Baron Hauptmann watched the execution of Master Slyman. It's part of the deal. Baron Hauptmann confirmed with his own eyes that Slyman was executed, and then Johnny Colin prepared the poison, and asked Baron Hauptmann to carry it in with his own hands, and watched the Baroness drink it. In this way, both sides can confirm the death of the other party's personnel, and no one has room to play tricks. The execution took place in a large courtyard. Master Slyman was escorted to the middle of the courtyard wearing magic handcuffs and pushed onto the gallows. There were densely packed black-robed mages all around. Archmage Grom, who was on duty at the review meeting in Black Crow Swamp, flew into the air and looked down at the necromancers below. Slyman Nairn, a 6th-level magician, belongs to Black Crow Swamp. For personal reasons, he deliberately released a plague curse on animals near the city's water source, polluting the water source and causing a plague epidemic. So far, 1,352 people have been infected. 85 people died, and direct economic losses exceeded 10,000 gold coins. In accordance with the laws of the kingdom and the parliament's regulations on the management of magicians, Master Slyman was sentenced to death and will be executed today. All personal property and mage towers were confiscated and delivered to the council as compensation for those damaged by the plague. Master Slyman, do you have anything else to say or any other wishes? Slyman slowly raised her head. Several days in prison did not make her look any worse. She couldn't get any paler anyway. She looked around from left to right at the necromancers standing in the yard. There are her teachers, her former classmates, elders she once looked up to but never had the opportunity to ask for advice, and peers she is not very familiar with and can only be considered to have met. There are also apprentices in her mage tower, huddled in the corner, confused because their future has been interrupted. Master Slyman looked back at the cell where her sister was, and lowered her gaze. When she turned around, she suddenly saw Archmage Edgar standing quietly under the stage. She couldn't help being shocked and took a step forward. Your Majesty the Archmage, is Master Lin An here? How? Archmage Edgar raised his eyes. Lin An was not called over to watch the execution today. One thing happened that the infectious disease hospital had just finished its work. Lin An followed little Greet and almost fell apart from exhaustion. Moreover, Archmage Edgar felt that his disciple was following him. Around Gretel, those who are close to Zoo are red, and their conduct is relatively reassuring. So when Lin An couldn't take leave today and said that a friend was coming to visit from afar, Archmage Edgar just turned a blind eye and let him go. Looking back now, it's a good thing she didn't come. God knows what did this woman who would poison a city want to do with Lin An? His repulsive attitude was visible to the naked eye. Slimane smiled miserably. Don't worry, I didn't want to do anything to him. I just wanted to ask, can I touch his cat-shaped magic pet? What? I just want to touch it? The female magician looked confused. That cat was originally what my mentor wanted to give me. If I had gotten it at that time, I wouldn't have hated him, and maybe, I wouldn't have done what I did. I was going to die soon, and I just want to touch it. What's going on? Commissioner Grom lowered his height, frowned and asked, are you robbing him of his things? His rank and power were higher than Edgar's. Archmage Edgar could only try to recall this question. However, the incident about a demon pet many years ago has been blurred in his memory, and he only has a rough impression. Lin was going on a trip at that time, and I asked a friend to help him find a magic pet to protect him. It happened many years ago. I didn't hear him mention that others wanted it at that time, right? Your Excellency, Archmage Master Slimane's mentor tried his best to squeeze over. In just 5 or 6 days, his hair on the temples had turned white. The old magician bowed deeply in front of Edgar and begged. I failed that adventure and almost didn't come back. I was not qualified to have that magic pet in the first place. But this child has been stubborn and she is about to die. For this last wish, please. So what about the last wish? Archmage Edgar suddenly darkened his face. I helped in the infectious disease hospital a few days ago and treated dozens of patients. I remember there was a little girl who kept holding her stomach and crying out for pain. She died before treatment. I was near her at the time and heard her dying. Before he died, he was still saying, Mom, when I get better, can you take me to the beach to pick up shells? Her wish is not a wish. Her life is not life. Those 85 deceased people, their lives are not life. Why is their last wish not fulfilled, and Slimane's wish needs us to find ways to satisfy it for her? Was it someone else's fault that she poisoned, cursed, and killed innocent civilians, or was it because someone else didn't give her a magic pet? That's right, Commissioner Grom nodded slowly. He turned to the necromancers in the audience and raised his voice. My colleagues, spellcasters possess powerful power, but this power is not what we use to harm others arbitrarily. In particular, we necromancers are known for their weird and terrifying powers, and have always been feared and hated by others. Therefore, in order to make dealing with outsiders smoother after we go out, we must be more self-disciplined than other spellcasters. Today I let you watch Master Slimane being executed, just to let everyone see her fate with your own eyes and take it as a warning. Execution. With an order, someone put a black bag on the female mage's head, put a sling around her neck, and pulled it up. The wooden board under her feet was suddenly pulled away, and a series of struggles were violent and subtle. In the end, the female mage hung silently on the gallows, truly turning into a corpse. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, until he was sure that the breath of life had disappeared, Commissioner Grom raised his palm, and a pale flame spurted out from his palm. In the flames, the body was quickly burned to ashes, and a wisp of breeze swept it away far away and dispersed into the sea waves. The corpse, flesh, blood, and soul of a necromancer cannot be made into undead creatures, and cannot be used for secondary purposes. This is Black Crow Swamp, the last and remaining tenderness towards the guilty travelers. The poisoning incident ended here. Baron Hauptmann preserved his family's reputation. The Parliament received a knighthood in its left hand, and used part of it in its right hand to compensate Viscount Cotteron for its losses, including the complete razing of 12 buildings, the water company's withdrawal of permission and closure of operations, and payment to the temple for contamination. The cost of treatment of the disease, resettlement of displaced family members of patients. Level in and level out, no loss or profit. As for the cost of demolishing the building, I respectfully invite the Lord of Thunder to burn the city with flames. After all, little Gretel is also your plasticity type. The only trouble is that the cash pressure has increased, and the Parliament's accountants have lost hundreds of hairs. Greet's public health system, water supply network, and infectious disease hospital once again solidly enhanced its sense of existence. However, if the trees are beautiful in the forest, the wind will destroy them. As soon as the patients in the infectious disease hospital were cleared, there were people in the city hall, at the review meeting, and in front of various powerful people wagging. How can a third-level mage preside over such an important matter? Arresting people all over the street, causing panic throughout the city. What you do is too overbearing. With so many patients dying, it's obvious that the little mage was incompetent. When the accident happened, the whole hospital was in chaos, and we had to rely on the emergency management department and the city hall to mobilize people to help. Obviously, if the person in charge was capable enough, how could it be like this? If you don't choose someone else to be in charge of the hospital, will you let a third-level mage talk to the Archbishop of the God of War Temple and the Grand Priest of the Spring Water Temple the next time something happens? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. The last chapter mentioned the recommendation. You all care about Lily more than you care about me. I am heartbroken. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 337. Archmage Carlyle was very depressed. Why are all the things related to little Gretel, good or bad, reasonable or unreasonable, all piled up to him? It makes him look like little Gretel's guardian. It might as well be that he is little Greet's teacher, but he is not. Teacher, if you want to accept him as a disciple, can you act quickly? Don't let me lose my reputation and work hard to deal with those guys. Fortunately, this job was not difficult to do in the past. Everyone knows that behind the little guy stands a legend. The Lord of Thunder is watching you and asks you if you are afraid. But now, the teacher no longer supports him. Want to take over the Department of Public Health? Want to take over the hospital? Lightning flashed at the Lord of Thunder's fingertips, repeating the cycle. Since he took up the hobby of alternating current, he no longer even plays coffee latte art. Then let them discuss it with little Greet. Why do you ask me? But let them bully little Gretel like this, Carlyle was puzzled. Teacher, aren't you the one who protects him the most? Why did you just let it go? It's time for him to do something serious, the Lord of Thunder sneered. A mage who doesn't work hard to study magic or hone his mental strength, but thinks about raising rats, rabbits, and bacteria every day? As long as he is a 5th-level mage, these guys won't dare to bully him. Then, Carlyle respectfully asked the teacher for instructions. The Lord of Thunder waved his hand casually. Let him go. If he wants to continue, that's fine. Let him handle it on his own. It's his ability to be able to handle the people in the jury, if he is willing to let go. The legendary mage pondered for a moment. Go and find him an adventure mission to practice his skills on. How can we children from Thunderhorn not even know how to fight, and we have to rely on the boys from Black Crow Swamp for guidance? Why is it still my job? Archmage Carlyle floated away silently. When he came to Gretel's mage tower and conveyed the temptation from others, Before Gretel could say anything, his own disciple jumped up first. Why? Why give it to them? Gretel has been busy for so long and put so much effort into it. Those people are going to take it away with just one word. How shameless. Oro, Archmage Carlyle shouted. Aurora sat down angrily, still aggrieved. We won't hand it over. We can't let those guys get away with it. If you want to take it away, you can exchange it for something. If you really want to force him to leave, you can. If there is any problem later, don't beg him to come back. Don't do it in the future. There's some weird infectious disease that those people can't cure, so they're here again to settle old scores. That's right. Lin N also came in from the door covered in moisture. He nodded to Archmage Carlyle and sat on the other side of Gretel. If you want to take Gretel's things, you have to exchange them for equal value. Magic items, techniques, anything can be done. If you want to use your power to get it for free, Your Majesty the Archmage, I remember that the Council does not have such a rule, right? There really is no such rule. However, if we argue seriously, there is room for improvement. The Department of Public Health and the Infectious Diseases Hospital are all public institutions funded and established by the Parliament and the City Hall, and are not the private property of any one person. Since it is a public institution, the founder naturally has the right to appoint more suitable candidates. If someone had robbed Gretel's mage tower instead of the hospital, the review committee would have sent them away long ago without going to Carlyle. When Lin opened his mouth to speak for Gretel, Archmage Carlyle was embarrassed. However, Gretel smiled and reassured. Brother Lin. Lin An shut up angrily. Greet got up and went to the desk to rummage, took out a stack of manuscript paper that was mostly written on, and returned to the sofa. Just as he was about to hand over the manuscript, he suddenly remembered something and turned to Archmage Carlyle. Let's not talk about whether to hand over my power or not. In the original agreement, after I have worked in the Department of Public Health for a year, the Council will help me build the Mage Tower for free without charging any additional money. Now let me hand over these, and the review will do. You want to deduct my money? That's a lot of money. If we turn it back now, he really has to sell himself, or sell the penicillin cheaply. His eyes were alert and his body was slightly tense, like a little beast ready to pounce at any time. Archmage Carlyle couldn't laugh or cry. It's not that. Speaking of it, you have done a very good job during this epidemic. Even if you have to calculate the reward, it is enough to compensate for it. Gretel breathed a sigh of relief. He put the manuscript paper on the coffee table and pushed it towards Archmage Carlyle. It's not impossible for me to hand over these projects. However, I have several conditions. As long as he is willing to negotiate. In other words, just let it go. Archmage Carlyle was slightly relieved. The Lord of Thunder's attitude is very clear. If little Gretel does not want to focus on magic and wants to seize these powers, he will not interfere. After all, the Department of Public Health has great power, and it can do it if it wants people, money, and can take advantage of the situation to crush those businessmen and even some nobles. It is normal and understandable for children not to want to let go. However, if little Gretel really falls into this, most of the Thunder Lord's attention and support will probably be withdrawn. Fortunately, this child can figure it out on his own. What conditions do you have? I'll negotiate. Want compensation? Want money or something? No problem, watch me go beat them up. First of all, this project is very professional and must be handled by professionals. Gretel's first condition surprised Master Carlyle. The person who takes over, in addition to the original magic skills, must also understand the water quality testing, bacterial culture, and isolation and protection of infectious diseases that I left behind. At least, he must be able to read the few papers I wrote. That's no problem, Archmage Carlyle replied immediately. Gretel bent down his second finger. Secondly, the batch of apprentices I trained must be properly placed. You can't just bring them into work when you need them, and drive them away when you don't need them, without any compensation. In fact, according to my estimation, they have at least half of them have to stay in the public health sector to make the system fully operational. Archmage Carlyle sighed slightly. The second condition still has nothing to do with Gretel's own interests and is purely for the consideration of others. He asked curiously. How many of these people are you going to save first? Why don't you dig up your mage tower? Gretel really liked a few apprentices, such as Leon Carlos, who was very capable of doing things, and the female priest Anavia who ran over with a wild boar. The problem is, without the name of the Department of Public Health, how can he retain people? But they all have owners. He said helplessly. Archmage Carlyle rolled his eyes at him. Now do you know the benefits of a high level? As long as you are a 5th level mage, you are qualified to ask for someone. You deserve it. Who told you not to advance quickly? Are there any other conditions? If not, I will do it for you. Let's talk. Yes, Gretel thought about it carefully. There is a consulting room for me in the infectious disease hospital. If necessary, I will go there to sit in the clinic and collect relevant information. Gretel. Gretel. Lynn and Aurora spoke up together. The latter is angry, while the former simply hates iron for being unable to become steel. Do you dare to be softer? Others are bullying you, but you still rush to work for others. Lynn reflexively stretched out his hand to stop him. Greet smiled and backed away. Brother Lin N, let's talk about terms and exchanges. Don't you still have the Archmage? Carlyle, waiting for me here? The instructor uses me as a tool, and you also use me as a tool? Then, what if they won't pay anything? Then they will never come to beg me for the rest of their lives. Gretel raised his chin. Whether it's penicillin or anything else, I won't give it to them. I have a lot of good things in my hands. Archmage Carlyle set off for negotiations with Gretel's conditions and the urban public health construction plan that Gretel had hastily completed. Not to mention the water supply, those who dare to go to an infectious disease hospital always have some confidence in their medical abilities. Since they understand medical treatment, they cannot ignore the existence of penicillin. In this exchange, I have to bite off a piece of their flesh. In the Mage Tower, Aurora and Lynn were still angry. Especially Lynn, who was circling around and staring at Greet, wanting to grab him and shake him twice. Gretel could only comfort him. Brother Lin N, in fact, these matters are not what I want to do in the first place. Whether it is the city water supply system or the infectious disease hospital, on the one hand, it is to earn this Mage Tower and exchange it with the review committee. On the other hand, I really can't bear to see how miserable the poor are and how bad their health conditions are. Now that the shelf is set up and the Mage Tower is in hand, why don't we get rid of the follow-up matters quickly? Someone still came to snatch this, so I don't have to pay to return it to the review committee. Lynn laughed out loud. Seeing that his expression was relaxed, Gretel quickly kept up his efforts. Besides, these management things should be left in the hands of professionals. Brother Lin, I am a healer. You ask me to take care of the food and drink of so many doctors and patients, buy furniture, change bed sheets, and scrub. Sterilizing surgical instruments, you might as well let me die. My level is not high enough and I don't have enough resources to mobilize. It would be good for me and the patients to leave these matters to the right people. If the person in charge of the hospital is a high-level mage, maybe the people from the temple can come faster and not so many people will die. He is a surgeon. He is a front-line clinician. Clinical work and hospital administration are two different things, but when combined with public health, disease control, and water affairs, they are 3 or even 4 different things. Before, I had no choice but to start it all by myself. Now someone actually comes to rob me, Amitba, who is so considerate. Whoever loves this responsibility wants it, please help me take it over and don't disturb my medical research. All the burdens on his body were thrown away, and Gretel suddenly felt relaxed. It was as if a heavy rain fell from the sky, washing away all the dust and washing myself from the inside out. Watching Aurora and Lynn leave together, he stretched himself greatly and said to himself, "If you love it, take it, and get out. Don't disturb my ascension." Hey, seems to have seen the dawn of upgrade again. It seems that the bonus promoted by Behi Dazang has been used up. From now on, I have to rely on myself again. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, please ask for all kinds of. There are so few monthly tickets and recommended tickets in these 2 days. Thanks to @bookfriend 202106011311011875 for the reward of 100 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 338. Chapter 338 Successful Advancement. Wait, there is still the second half, 10,000 rewards plus 1 update. Archmage Carlyle returned with satisfaction from Gretel's answer. The teacher's right to know has a higher priority than those who are grabbing power. If the teacher nods and is willing to support him behind the scenes, he can also get more compensation when negotiating terms. Besides, we are going to send little Gretel out for training soon. We need to decide on a training location so that we can choose some suitable equipment for him, right? At the top of the Babel Tower, the Lord of Thunder was indeed quite satisfied with Gretel's answer. He then urged his disciples. "Have you chosen your adventure mission?" "I picked a few, they are all suitable for level 3-5 magicians." Archmage Carlyle took out his notebook with experience. "Considering that there is a high-level barbarian warrior beside him, I found some high-level and low-level tasks. For example, a zombie appeared in the abandoned church on Ram Island, and adventurers were asked to eliminate it. Those guys from the Lord of Glory didn't clean up their tail when they ran away," the Lord of Thunder commented with a sneer. 3 years have passed since their own church, and corpse monsters still appear. However, the island is too small and the church level is too low, so there won't be any good things. The little guy's combat power is well planned and can be used in a one-on-one fight. There is no need to give him such a simple task if he is level 4 or 5. Yes, you also know the details of a low-level mission. Sure enough, you have checked it in advance. Archmage Carlyle turned the page with a curse. The mines in Jinclay Mountain. The mine is too uncontrollable. As soon as he started, the Lord of Thunder shook his head and interrupted. "If you're not lucky, you may fall into the underground world." Next one. Yes. A water monster appeared in Lake Luashi, affecting waterway transportation. The Emergency Management Department sent an action team, including a 4th-level mage and 2 knights, but returned without success. Lake Loxy. The Lord of Thunder frowned. "That little girl who Greed helped out with? Can you let him concentrate on it? There are no other tasks." "This, you are too picky." Archmage Carlyle flipped through 2 more pages before settling on a task that satisfied the Lord of Thunder. Enter the Spey Forest in the north, collect a batch of designated herbs, and eliminate the monsters. This mission includes exploration, combat, and long-distance travel. It can be difficult or easy, and can be advanced or retreated, making it easy to monitor and provide timely support at any time. Even if the little guy misses, he can be picked up in time to avoid irreparable damage. Archmage Carlyle took the task list and returned to the Mage Tower again, preparing to check the list of requirements with Gretel. However, he received news that made him a little happy and a little depressed. Greet, retreat, and advance. So my checking of this information will not be in vain, right? Then, teacher, will you come back tomorrow? Aurora weakly discussed with her instructor. Anyway, advanced meditation doesn't take too long. Generally speaking, One day and one night is enough. Archmage Carlyle floated away silently and went to the judging meeting to help Gretel negotiate terms. The Public Health Agency was initially forced to do so by the review committee, but now it cannot be too stingy when it comes to kicking people out. The wool comes from the sheep, they just need to uphold justice, and they talked about everything in one day. Archmage Carlyle and the other party roughly agreed on the amount of compensation, and then came to Gretel's mage tower again with a list of supplies. Before the disciple could speak, he knew what had happened as soon as he looked at his face. Little Gretel hasn't finished meditating yet. It seems so. Is there nothing wrong? Is the magic fluctuation in the meditation room still normal? I can't feel it, but Ma said everything is normal. Has he eaten? I don't know. The invisible servant always brings food in, but never out. Ugh. You don't care about anything. The person you follow is good or bad, and you don't know. Aurora puffed out her cheeks. He was not convinced and did not dare to argue with the teacher. He could only show his aggrieved face to the teacher. He doesn't know either. His own advanced meditation has always taken half a day to a day. Even when he upgraded from level 4 to level 5, it didn't take more than 2 days. He was never around when Gretel advanced. How did he know there was anything different about Gretel? Forget it, I'll come back tomorrow. The next day. The door to the meditation room is not open. The third day. The meditation room is still not open. The fourth day. Teacher, what's the matter with you coming here all the time? Is there anything we can do to help? Aurora began to care about her tutor. If possible, can we help you run errands first so that you don't have to wait all the time? You can't help. Archmage Carlyle scolded his disciple with a dark face. The above message is to let little Greet go out for a walk and experience it, without taking you with me. I want to have a chat with him, give him some instructions on going on adventures, and check what equipment is needed. What? You are not allowed to take me, Aurora jumped up. What about his safety? He is only level 3. He is only level 4 after being upgraded. He has to find hotels everywhere to stay. If there is no hotel, he has to live in the wilderness. In the wild, he won't even be released from the mage's hut. That's why I'm not allowed to take you. If I take you, is that still called training? Then, ask Brother Lin to lend him the cat. Roll. It's not that Greet wanted to stay in the meditation room, but he was meditating in his own mage tower. It felt really good. Safe, quiet, stable, and abundant magic elements, and more importantly, free of charge. The primary meditation room in Babel Tower is for level 1 to level 4 magicians, and it costs 100 contribution points per day. Moss, can I rent out this meditation room for money? It can be rented out, but I don't recommend it, Master Ma said in an indifferent voice. The space in the meditation room is limited. Magicians practice daily in a dedicated meditation room for a long time, which is conducive to rapid advancement. Unless the operation situation of the Magician Tower is particularly difficult, otherwise, it is not recommended to rent it out. Well, Gretel felt this deeply. Since he had his own mage tower, he moved his meditation to the tower every morning and evening, and the accumulation of mental power and elemental power was indeed much faster. If this were not the case, it would not have been possible for him to reach the threshold of leveling up again less than half a year after his last advancement. Now, the advanced preparatory work has been completed. The skeleton and muscles of the humanoid figure of light at the core of meditation have been constructed as early as the first 2 advancements. During the period of becoming a third-level mage, the arteries and veins are also constructed by mental power, with the heart as the center, opening up a dense network and connecting each other. At the moment of advancement, thump, thump, in the void, the heart contracts and relaxes powerfully. Left atrium, right atrium, left ventricle, right ventricle, tricuspid valve, mitral valve. Everyone performs their duties in an orderly manner, the rhythm is undisturbed, and the degree of relaxation and contraction is just right. Completely, a textbook standard heart. It's a pity that there is no blood in it. Gretel sighed silently. Shaping the blood vessel walls layer by layer according to the nature and level of the blood vessels had exhausted all his mental energy. The artery wall is divided into 4 layers, and the vein wall is divided into 3 layers, plus the valves inside. From thick to thin, connected to each other, plus the capillaries at the end. Internal red blood cells, white blood cells, various cells. Sorry, he hasn't figured out how to deal with things on the micro level yet. I tried it twice and found that the ideas I came up with were all inexplicable little things, so I had to give up. There is no blood in it. The heart is beating in vain and the blood vessels are contracting and relaxing. What exactly is it doing? No physical performance. Apart from him, there is no other audience. Greet groaned secretly. However, the next moment, the inexplicable feedback that would inevitably occur when advancing came across the sky. This is starting from the heart, or to be more precise, starting from the left atrium, a vital force suddenly exploded. Fluid, full, slightly sticky, and exuding a little light. Fills the left atrium, is injected into the aorta, rushes through the blood vessels, reaches the end of the body, and is recycled bit by the capillaries into the veins. That's blood. Is it what this world has given me, something that replaces blood in my spiritual core? Something that echoes my own blood? Wait a minute, Gretel hurriedly adjusted his meditation method. Blood is not like this. Reshape it for me. Red blood cells. White blood cells. Platelets. Water, various soluble substances, blood sugar, hormones, enzymes. Albumin, fibrinogen, globulin. He desperately recalled various descriptions of blood in textbooks, trying to command these liquids to react. The feedback that landed in the dark, together with the steady supply of magic elements in the meditation room, was sucked into the depths of the spiritual core like a whale sucking water. As for whether it is shaped as required, Greet said, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Anyway, even if I have a microscope, I can't take a drop of blood from my spiritual core and look at it. The human body's blood is about 5,000 milliliters, and Greet doesn't know whether he is being shaped ml by ml, or drop by drop. Anyway, just work hard and absorb it until you can't breathe it in anymore. I guess this advancement is over, right? With magical elements supplying his body's needs, he doesn't feel hungry or thirsty. What's more, when I occasionally opened my eyes during meditation, what was on the plate was either fried fish or cheese, chips or soup, and I had no desire to eat. Greet closed his eyes and concentrated, day and night, until the fluctuations in the feedback in the void stopped. He opened his eyes and stood up, raising his hand. Oops, I was in a hurry this time and didn't bring the oak staff with me. Gretel. Gretel, you're done, right? Aurora's shout came through the stone wall. The meditation room is well soundproofed. This effect is obviously because Moss judged that he had successfully advanced and enabled voice transmission. I saw your oak staff. 4 leaves. Come out when you're done. I'll see you if I need anything. Gretel smiled slightly and moved forward. He raised his feet, retracted them, and sat down on the meditation cushion. Wait a minute, I have to advance to another level. What? We still have to wait. Hey, what should little Greet choose for his next soul magic? 3,000 words. A total of 6,000 today. The first 10,000 reward update of this month is completed. It's still a little more than halfway to the next one, so it's still early. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews. Thanks to @book friend 20210822045003257 for the 500 starting coin reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 339. Greet advanced to the mage level this time earlier than before. Maybe it's because the role of penicillin is too important, maybe it's because he treated too many patients in the infectious disease hospital day and night, or maybe it's because he made too many small achievements piecemeal some time ago and accumulated a lot of achievements. So much feedback. In short, this time, the priest level has just been promoted, and the mage level is catching up. The feedback from the world's will has been overwhelming and abundant. Even with the tight barrier of the meditation room, the magic fluctuations in the room made Archmage Carlyle stand still outside the door. Is this really promotion from level 3 to level 4? Not upgrade from level 4 to level 5? You must know that when you upgrade from level 4 to level 5 and become an intermediate mage, the magician will usher in an essential improvement. The elemental power will refine the spirit and body from the inside out. Even a magician who is physically weak and can't breathe when walking, after this wave of promotion, can still have the physical fitness of a first-level warrior. This kid is not of a high level, but he makes a lot of noise, isn't he? Archmage Carlyle walked from left to right outside the meditation room, then from right to left, back and forth, almost wearing off a layer of skin on the floor at the door. The accumulation is really profound. No wonder I saw him throwing 17 or 8 mage hands out at once during the operation, as if he never worried about mental exhaustion. With such accumulation, Gretel's advancement process can be said to be a matter of course. Soon, he crossed the mental power threshold of a 4th-level magician and began to construct a protective shell outside the meditation environment, and then engraved the spell model in the meditation environment. The learning process of a magician is the process of imprinting various spell models into the soul one by one. Of course, those that are not engraved cannot be released, but whoever uses them knows the feeling of holding a magic book to temporarily construct a spell model. Although depending on the strength and carrying capacity of the soul, each level can be engraved with several to a dozen models, like the spiritual picture of the Lord of Thunder. Those dark clouds, thunder dragons, thunder snakes, and thunder balls are all spells the embodiment of the model. However, the first magic burned every time you advance has an advanced feedback bonus, and the effect is usually outstanding. Therefore, every magician is extremely cautious in choosing engraving magic when advancing. Greet didn't hesitate at all and directly selected the object to be imprinted. He himself improved delaying pain. Magic anesthesia. Local anesthesia. Tweak this magic function model. Add parameters. Control the range of influence of the spell, control the depth of influence, and try to affect multiple landing points with one cast. By the way, part of the original delay pane may be aimed at the central nervous system, so the spell interface should also be left open, ready to be replaced at any time. Gretel meditated completely. Magic anesthesia, what an important spell it is, it's worth spending more energy on. If the casting depth can be appropriately adjusted to reach the inside of the organs, it may also have an auxiliary effect on diagnosis. He was immersed in meditation wholeheartedly, and was only bothered by Archmage Carlyle walking back and forth at the door. Even though he knew that the advancement of the mage who had accumulated a lot of money would be smooth, he couldn't help but feel anxious. Hey, is everything going well for this kid? You won't encounter any obstacles, right? Why does this magic wave go up and down? Sometimes it's extremely strong, and sometimes it's so weak. Moss. How is your master? Teacher, don't worry, Greet will be fine. Aurora brought the invisible servant and brought tea. Teacher, do you want to have something to drink and take a rest? I don't know how long Gretel will be meditating. It's not interesting for you to wait at the door. Otherwise, would you like to take a look at his adventure mission? Now he has advanced to the 4th level. The original task may not be suitable anymore. Archmage Carlyle glared at his disciple. Which pot is not open, which pot is picked up? I finally found 7 or 8 tasks before I passed the test with the Lord of Thunder. You just ask me to find another one? I want to exhaust your teacher to death or something. He grabbed the teacup and vented his anger like tons, 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 tons. After finishing a drink, I grabbed another cookie and continued to crackle it. The snacks in the Mage's Tower are made by Aurora's cook's recipe and made by invisible servants. They are all the same in shape and taste. The best thing is that they are willing to use the ingredients. Butter, white sugar, and milk are added for free. It may be boring to eat it every day, but it tastes really good if you eat it once in a while. Archmage Carlyle drank tea and drank 5 or 6 biscuits in one go. I ate in a hurry, and the tea was a bit lukewarm. Before I could fill my stomach, I started to feel that something was wrong. Hiccup. 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 The pain is not painful, just excruciating. One every 2 or 3 seconds, one every 5 or 6 seconds, popping up at any time with no pattern. What's even more troublesome is that it interrupts the chanting. As a high-level magician, most of the spells he can use are high-level. A few seconds of chanting is not a small amount of time. It is no problem to chant for more than 10 seconds, a minute, or even several minutes. Halfway through the chant, I suddenly burped. If you have good luck, the release fails and you have to start all over again. If you have bad luck, haha, then anything can happen. Archmage Carlyle froze. To be on the safe side, he simply found a room in the tower to live in, and prepared to stop the hiccups first. Aurora circled around the teacher and suddenly came up with an idea. Teacher, please drink some water. Drink some water and press it down, maybe the hiccups will stop. Teacher, please hold your breath for a while and hold back the burp. Teacher, please drink some water and swallow it in small sips. I heard that it will be better. However, these methods are of no use. Later, 2 magicians, Lynn and Norwood, also participated and provided various folk remedies. Drink a cup of warm sugar water. Pinch your ears with your fingernails. Take some snuff and sneeze to stop hiccups. You are going to torture me to death. When Master Norwood provided a large glass of onion juice, claiming that it was a folk remedy for hiccups in his hometown, Archmage Carlyle finally exploded. Hiccup won't kill me. Hiccup. If you feed me these, hiccup, inexplicable things, hiccup, it will kill me. Hiccup. Hiccup. What's wrong? A laughing voice sounded outside the door. Everyone turned back together. Gretel, your advancement is complete. Gretel, is there anything you can do? Mage Nordmark, congratulations on your advancement. I'm fine, hiccup, I just hiccup. Gretel walked over quickly. Halfway through, everyone present leaned back, and then, in unison, they began to throw cleaning techniques at him. How many days have you spent in the meditation room? I haven't changed my clothes. No shower? You should pack up and come out again. Greet smiled apologetically at them. He walked up to the Archmage with a cleansing technique, sat down and asked. How did you start hiccuping? How long have you had it? Besides hiccups, are there any other discomforts? Aurora rushed to answer for the teacher. Gretel was observing Archmage Carlyle's condition while listening, and after hearing most of it, he had already made a judgment. It's just a simple nervous hiccup, nothing serious, just annoying. As for treatment, there is a little recipe. I have an idea. Your Excellency, Archmage, can you pull up your trousers to above your knees? What is this for? Archmage Carlyle looked at him warily. I have hiccups, not leg pain. Why do you want me to pull down my trousers? A cure for hiccups. Gretel smiled good-naturedly. If you don't want to pull it, I can cast the spell through the clothes. However, the spell level is relatively low. If the magic defense of the clothes you are wearing is strong, it may not be effective. His attitude was gentle, but Archmage Carlyle was too embarrassed to resist, so he pulled up his trouser legs as Greet said. Greet leaned down, activated the delay pane that had just been engraved, and released a spell on the outside of the Archmage's left and right knees and on the 4 fingers below the knee depression. The spell waves passed by quietly. The coverage area is no larger than the mouth of a cup, and the depth is no more than 2 inches. Archmage Carlyle is still surprised. Delay pane? I told you my legs don't hurt. Hiccup, your spell has much smaller fluctuations and a smaller release range. How did you do it? Hiccup, you changed the model again? That's right, up the last time you said you wanted to learn this magic, I took you to ask MRSC for advice, but this is the result. Hiccup, if you have time, remember to publish a paper, don't be lazy. He talked non-stop for about 10 minutes. Suddenly, Aurora interrupted. Teacher, you seem to have stopped hiccuping. Archmage Carlyle was stunned for a moment. He raised his hand and touched his throat, then his stomach, and chanted a series of mantras quickly. In the lounge, large pieces of furniture and furnishings floated up in response, their surfaces tingling with electric light. And for such a long series of incantations, not one hiccup disturbed it. Can delaying pain cure hiccups? Gretel, how did you do it? Gretel smiled slightly and did not answer. Speaking of which, this is a small recipe shared by colleagues in the emergency medicine department. Injecting lidocaine into Zuzanli to treat neurological hiccups has been found to be quite effective. Colleagues from the Department of Internal Medicine also shared more than a dozen related papers with him. He doesn't have lidocaine or any kind of anesthetic on hand now, so. Want to try magic local anesthesia? It actually works. 2,800 words is almost the same as 3,000 words. For the sake of my hard work, please subscribe, please give me monthly tickets, please recommend votes, please give me book reviews, please ask for all kinds of things. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 340. Archmage Carlyle stopped hiccuping, regained his ability to cast spells, and immediately returned to the Tower of Babel. Soon, he received a new order from the legendary mage. The adventure mission is suspended, let the kid seize the time to meditate and stabilize his realm. Then, memorize all the spells you can learn at level 5. Memorize the information and spell models. You're done. After hearing the message from the Archmage, Aurora gloated and congratulated Gretel. The 3rd level magic that 5th level mages can learn, the general spell books, I mean, the ones that can be redeemed in the White Tower Library, the 8 schools add up, there are 42 in total. Counting the secrets of each school, only if we have a good relationship with you are we willing to exchange them for you. I want to think about how many there are in total. 211, Lynn added calmly. Before I went out to travel, my instructor showed me the list of spells I could get. There were 211. Gretel was silent. 42 spell models. Even if he memorizes one in a day and never forgets it after memorizing it, it will still take 42 days, 211, it will take more than half a year. Judging from his experience in memorizing level 6 words, if he only forgets 50 or 60 by the 211th word, he has studied hard and has an excellent memory. And more importantly, why do I have to buy these spell models myself? I didn't buy it last time. During the last upgrade, Master Carlyle took all the 2nd level spell books directly and threw them in front of him. He was not allowed to leave until he memorized them. This. Aurora shook her head. I don't know why you didn't buy it last time. Generally speaking, you have to pay for exchanging spell books. Either the magician himself pays for it, or the magician's master pays for it. Third level general purpose spells, one spell model costs 200 contribution points and you can get half the discount if you exchange it from within the school. It's very cheap, he comforted Gretel in a good voice. It's not like you can't afford it. I remember your previous paper on alternating current, which rewarded you with 1000 contribution points, right? Greet generously gave him 300 points. 200 points were stored in the Mage Tower public account, and he still had 1000 contribution points. It's 500 points. So it still costs more than 2000. If I want to buy all 211 of them, I will go bankrupt. You don't need to buy those, you just need to memorize the introduction and know that there is such a spell. While Greet was crying, I'm going bankrupt, I'm going to be finished, and I'm going to memorize it until I die, he still obediently paid for it and bought all 42 spell models. No matter what, this request is for his own good. According to Lin N, these are requirements only for the elites of each school. Ordinary low-level mages have no one to care about you. I went out to travel, take risks, and fight on my own. I didn't have enough knowledge and vigilance. I stumbled and deserved to die. However, after buying it, Greet looked at the account balance that had dropped by half in an instant, and began to feel frightened again. Olo, what other ways can we save money? If we continue to spend like this, we will go bankrupt. Aurora rolled her eyes. He is a 5th level mage who has studied in Nevis for several years and accumulated 1500 contribution points. Gretel was just promoted to level 4 mage today. He has been in Nevis for less than 2 years and has spent thousands. Now he still has 2000 contribution points in his hand. How does Greet feel that he is on the verge of bankruptcy every minute? Your Dragon Breath hand's current monthly income is between 100 and 200 contribution points. The income from the microscope has dropped recently, and has been around 50 contribution points for 3 consecutive months. Add in some other miscellaneous items, and I can earn 200 to 300 contribution points every month just by sitting still. This number is already more than 5 times that of an ordinary 4th level mage. Not to mention that Greet didn't have to spend a lot of money, such as renting a meditation room. But you are about to reach level 6, right? After level 6, you will reach level 7, and you need to prepare to buy level 4 magic, Greet said confidently. Also Lin, you are almost at level 6, right? The 4th level magic is much more expensive than the 3rd level, so why don't you prepare it early? Can't I go find the teacher? Don't I have any savings of my own? Aurora and Lin retorted at the same time. Greet smiled at them. You are my followers, so I should support you. And Mr. Norwood, he works for me, so I should also pay him a salary, right? The 2 5th level mages looked at each other, angry and funny, and a little warm in their hearts. Lin finally sighed. Okay. You don't have to worry about not having enough money, have you forgotten the penicillin? The God of War Temple has asked me twice. If you weren't busy advancing, you would have talked to them long ago. Yes. I'll sort out the papers. The production and clinical application of penicillin, as well as related principles, can be divided into 3 or 5 large papers. Research points, contribution points, here I come. Gretel is gearing up. There was quite a lot of data from animal experiments and clinical experiments before, and it would take him 10 days and a half just to sort it out. However, as soon as it started, an uninvited guest came to the door. The Archbishop of the Temple of the God of War made an appointment with Elderwood, the great magician of the conjuration system in the review committee, and the Archmage Tolga who helped with treatment during the epidemic, and went directly to the Mage Tower. You want to buy it now? Gretel looked embarrassed. But, I don't have time to do it. He subconsciously looked at Elderwood. Greet was very interested in developing penicillin, but he was not interested at all in mass production after the research and development was completed. It would be great if Elderwood could take charge of the production, however, with a high-level spellcaster tied up in the Mage Tower and promoting the growth of penicillium every day, Gretel felt that he could not even speak out. This is simple, you don't need to do it. Elderwood raised his hand with a smile. Behind him, a tall girl stepped out and bowed slightly to Gretel. Pastor Nordmark, am I lucky enough to join the Mage Tower and continue to learn from you? It's poor girl. Gretel suddenly realized. Among the 4 God of Nature priests who came to the Mage Tower to study, if he could decide to keep one of them, this girl would definitely be his first choice. However, when the real person stood in front of him, Gretel was still a little hesitant. Miss Anivia, of course I welcome you if you want to join the Mage Tower. However, I am only a 4th level priest myself and have not received a complete education. I am afraid that I am not capable enough to guide you along the way as a priest. Catch. Mr. Nordmark, the path you have created has given me great inspiration. Anivia looked calm and bowed slightly again. I hope to be able to join your project and continue to develop it. My intuition tells me that if I continue to move forward on this road, my future will be bright. What a powerful intuition. Gretel sighed. That's right, just understanding penicillin is already at the level of an archdruid. Not to mention that after penicillin there are streptomycin, erythromycin, and down to vancomycin. There are also various bacterial cultures, medical treatment, a lot of vaccines, tons and tons of projects are lined up. As long as this girl keeps working on projects with him and relies solely on feedback from the world, she will have no problem reaching at least level 15. Little Greet, you can rest assured about the guidance, Elderwood said with a smile. This girl's father and mother are both servants of the God of Nature, so there is no problem in guiding her. If you think she works hard enough and is spiritual in her work, just let her participate in your project. Besides, I won't leave it alone. Greet breathed a sigh of relief. He stood up with a smile and stretched out his palm seriously. Miss Anivia, welcome to join my Mage Tower. We will discuss our future projects and your position in the team later. The 2 palms are separated as soon as they are grasped. Anivia's palm was warm and powerful, and the edge of the palm was hard, a bit rougher than Greet's hand. Greet secretly reminded herself to bring her a bottle of glycerin to wipe her hands when she turned around, then turned to the other guests. Then, let's talk about the sales of penicillin. My idea is that once there are too many impurities in penicillin, the risk of death from allergies will skyrocket. For the time being, we will only produce this special medicine in the Mage Tower and sell the finished product to the outside world. To ensure pure quality. What about the selling price? Archmage Tolga asked impatiently. By the way, a reference price is also given. Little Greet, a bottle of potion to treat minor injuries. The price of the temple is 5 gold coins. You can't bid too high. Penicillin does not have the power to heal wounds immediately. Gretel kept smiling. However, it suppresses certain types of infection, preventing injuries and illnesses from worsening, allowing the patient to heal itself. In other words, it acts like a slow-acting potion to remove disease. And removal. The price of disease potions, I remember, is level 3 spell, disease removal, a spell that priests, druids, rangers, and medical mages can master. A bottle of potion, the standard selling price in major temples is 750 gold coins. The high-level healers looked at each other, and then quickly entered the bargaining stage. Greet sat next to him with a smile, listening respectfully and occasionally expressing opinions on technical issues. Dosage. Intramuscular injection for adults, 800,000 units per day, divided into 3 to 4 doses. How long should it be used? About a week, at most 2 weeks. Generally speaking, if there is no effect in about 3 days, it is time to change the medicine. Oh, I forgot, there is no medicine to change. How do you calculate 800,000 units? You don't need to go into detail on this. You will know when my paper comes out. Anyway, when we sell it, we will make it into 200,000 units each. Sell directly to the temple? Or sell through the council? It's up to you. The bargaining went on to conclude that all penicillin would be sold on the parliamentary trading floor, with a fixed quota given to the Temple of Mars. Of course, the Temple of the God of War can also use other materials to offset the contribution points. Each penicillin, that is, 200,000 units of powder, sells for 1 contribution point. Considering the price comparison between contribution points and gold coins, a 7-day supply of penicillin is equivalent to about 1/5 of the disease-removing potion, which is considered a fair price. Greet calculated the weight of the gold coins and concluded that the price of penicillin for 1 adult per day was about the same as that of a small yellow croaker. After a week of use, a large yellow croaker would be burned. It is indeed the most expensive drug in spy dramas, penicillin. I wrote 3,000 words even though I didn't have enough money to get the reward. Today's total is 5,800. I don't work hard. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews. Thanks to @Fijianj Pavilion Master for the 500 starting coin reward.